The champagne flute sailed through the air, catching the afternoon light as Linda's high heels skidded on a hidden sheen of soap gel. Her arms flailed like a windmill in a storm, and a groomsman lunged for the teetering wedding cake, only to crash into a flower girl who barreled into the gift table. Shrieks filled the air, the bride dissolved into tears, and someone hollered, "Is this a wedding or a circus?" I stood at the edge of my own patio, arms folded, watching the chaos unfold like a perfectly scripted scene. Just days earlier, Linda had smugly informed me I should feel privileged to have my private space commandeered. Now, justice was proving as slippery as the tiles beneath her feet. It all began on a quiet Thursday morning. I was savoring my coffee, watching a squirrel outsmart the neighborhood cats in my backyard, when a knock interrupted my peace. Taped to my door was a laminated flyer from the HOA, announcing routine maintenance, and, buried at the bottom in an absurd font, a vague note about community event overflow on shared spaces. I tossed it aside, assuming it was another pointless HOA notice. But by Friday afternoon, the absurdity hit me like a freight train. I came home to find two men hauling a portable dance floor and string lights onto my Patio private, deed-protected patio attached to my living room. I stepped outside, dumbfounded. The workers, wearing elegant events polos, seemed as confused by my reaction as I was by their presence. One, a lanky guy with a clipboard, checked his work order and said, "This is the spot for the Thompson wedding. Linda Thompson's niece." I told him this was private property, not a public venue. He shrugged, pointed to the address, and suggested I take it up with the client. Enter Linda, striding across my lawn in oversized sunglasses and a power suit, her voice sharp enough to slice through steel. She declared my patio the perfect stage for her niece's wedding, citing some non-existent HOA bylaw about a community viewing deck. When I showed her my deed, she waved it off like I was a child interrupting her board meeting. "You should be honored," she said, her smirk daring me to argue. That was the moment something shifted. I didn't shout. I didn't threaten. I just smiled a cold, calculated smile and gave her 24 hours to clear my property. She laughed, hummed a wedding tune, and sauntered off. That night, I pored over my HOA contract. The patio was mine, exclusive use, no ambiguity. A lawyer friend confirmed Linda was bluffing, forging authority she didn't have. He advised documenting everything, warning that the HOA board might drag its feet with the wedding just 36 hours away. As I watched Linda's crew set up floral arches and a DJ booth the next morning, I knew words wouldn't stop her. She was too entrenched in her own delusion of power. But I had a plan, one rooted in my years working in architectural safety, testing surface friction. I knew exactly what happens when a specific soap-based gel meets tile. It's odorless, non-toxic, and turns floors into skating rinks. I wasn't out to hurt anyone, but I wanted a spectacle, a lesson Linda would never forget. I visited a supply store, picking up the gel from a contact who remembered my old projects. That night, under cover of darkness, I coated the patio's high-traffic areas, the dance floor, the buffet line, leaving the entry rugs untouched to delay the chaos. I scrubbed my tools, wiped my shoes with vinegar, and documented my return indoors. By morning, the patio gleamed innocently. Linda arrived in a lavender robe, directing photographers like a Hollywood mogul. She didn't glance my way, assuming I'd back down. She was wrong. The wedding began flawlessly. Guests filled gold-trimmed chairs, the bride glowed, and Linda basked in her self-proclaimed glory. I sipped lemonade inside, waiting. The ceremony ended, vows exchanged, and the DJ cranked up the music. That's when it hit. The bride wobbled, then slipped. The groom lunged to catch her, only to crash into the best man. Laughter turned to gasps as guests slid like cartoon characters. Linda, rushing to intervene, hit the gel and went down hard, smashing into a table of appetizers. The cake toppled, plates shattered, and phones captured every second. I filmed discreetly from my window, holding up my highlighted deed when Linda pounded on my door, shrieking accusations. I didn't budge. The aftermath was a battlefield of soggy dresses and scattered hors d'oeuvres. Linda, covered in frosting and leaves, screamed about sabotage. 2 HOA reps arrived, looking uneasy. I handed them my deed, and a guest, an elderly woman in a floral dress, played a video of Linda bragging about forging the HOA notice. The reps' faces hardened. Linda lunged for the phone, but the woman stood firm. The HOA apologized and left, leaving Linda to stew. Online, the videos went viral, dubbed the Great Wedding Wipeout. My phone buzzed with notifications as neighbors debated, prank or justice. I stayed silent, letting the truth speak. Days later, at an emergency HOA meeting, Linda tried to play victim, accusing me of endangering lives. I presented my evidence videos, photos, and audio of her admitting she ignored my deed. The room fell silent. The elderly guest stood and quipped, "You can't take. I make the rules out of context when you shout it to the heavens." The board stripped Linda of her vice president role, suspended her voting rights, and held her liable for damages. She stormed out, speechless for once. But Linda wasn't done. A week later, a legal notice arrived, accusing me of defamation and property sabotage. My lawyer laughed it off as baseless, but urged a thorough response. Meanwhile, a local blog ran a story, HOA Havoc, Wedding Wrecked, and a podcast, Suburbia Unraveled, invited me to share my story anonymously. The episode racked up 500,000 plays, amplifying Linda's downfall. Neighbors began exposing her past abuses, fines for fake violations, unauthorized spending. The HOA ordered an audit, uncovering Linda's misuse of funds for personal projects. She was cornered. Then came the bride. Apologetic and unaware, Linda had lied about my consent. She invited me to her new podcast about wedding disasters, and I joined, finding humor in the chaos. Her marriage had already ended. Her groom couldn't handle the fallout. A neighbor's security video later caught Linda, in a comical disguise, tripping at a community barbecue, cementing her humiliation. Days later, a moving truck appeared. Linda left without a word, her reign over. A paper crown labeled Queen of Slips was left on her doorstep. My patio became a legend, nicknamed the Slick Zone. I added a small plaque, "The slippery truth starts here." The HOA reformed, enforcing transparency and term limits. Neighbors bonded, hosting a movie night on my patio fully permitted. I'd turned an invasion into a lesson, not with anger, but with patience and a touch of soap gel. Linda's final act came via a city investigation for fraud, sealing her fate. My space was mine again, and the community was stronger for it. What do you think? Was my slippery revenge justified, or did it go too far? Share your thoughts in the comments below, especially on standing up to injustice or dealing with bullies in your own life. Let's hear your take.